We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett. Hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend and you've taken your eyes off of the hamburgers and the hot dogs and the baseball. And hopefully we can turn our eyes back to the NFL and talk about the San Francisco 49ers. As you can see behind me, the studio is looking a little different. I have moved locations from Northern California to Southern California, and by the time this video comes out, I might be a married man and the ring might be on the finger, but we have some more pressing things to address today. Have you liked the video yet? Have you subscribed to the channel? Please do so because we have ourselves a doozy. We are going to dive into Niners' 4th round pick receiver out of Arizona, Jacob Cowing today. How does he fit on the roster? What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? Going to cover everything Jacob Cowing centered today on the show. Again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's dive into the second receiver your Niners drafted in this past year's 2024 NFL Draft. Jacob Cowing, receiver out of Arizona, taken in round number 4, 135th overall, which I don't think you can have any gripes of where Cowing was drafted. In fact, many of you wanted San Francisco to pick Cowing anyways, and so round 4, pick 135, I think was a great spot to get a receiver like Cowing. Again, if you follow The Athletic or know their draft coverage, Dane Brugler, who writes The Beast, he had Cowing going in the 4th round, so San Francisco didn't really overdraft in many places this year, and Cowing is not included in that maybe one-person list. But Cowing so far, this OTAs and training camp season, we haven't seen much of him, so this is all projection, speculation, and what his college tape showed us. So I'll just share this. I was at OTAs, I was at rookie minicamp, and they don't do much. In fact, Cowing hasn't stood out much whatsoever. Now, in rookie minicamp, punt return stuff, fumbled a couple, but you're getting your feet wet. Doesn't matter too much. It's your first day on the job, your first day at school. Not much to complain about there. Then, once OTAs began, which are optional, mind you, but for a young player like Cowing, it's a good place to prove yourself, to get off on the right foot, and hopefully have the coaching staff say, wow, this Cowing kid could actually help us in year 1. Well, Jacob Cowing did not practice in the first OTAs that were open to the media. Now, we're not sure if that was because of an injury, which he was in street clothes on the sideline, which that likely means it was an injury, but we're not sure what that is or what it was. We are not sure how severe it is, and by this time or this week come Wednesday, he could be out there on the field showing off what he can actually do. All that to say, Jacob Cowing is really small. I'm talking 5'8", 5'9", 170 pounds. This man, I'm 6'1", 6'2". If you put Jacob Cowing next to me, he looks like a 6th grader. And it's no disrespect, it's not his fault, and short people are fine. We all love a good short king, right? He's just really tiny. That said, when you're really tiny, you hope, and Cowing is in this grouping, you're really fast. Jacob Cowing, 5'8", 170 pounds, 4.38 speed. Now, going back to his size, right, his height, Cody Schrader who we covered in the UDFA scouting report, he's 5'9". Cody Schrader doesn't look 5'9", but he's jacked, he's built like a running back. Jacob Cowing is a tiny running or receiver. He looks like a middle schooler. and I mean that in the most respectful way possible, because Jacob Cowing can play. Again, he has the 4.38 speed. Brock Purdy, in his post-first OTA practice media availability, said he can't wait to see what Cowing can do when it comes to taking the top off of defenses. And look, while Cowing does lack true size, being 5'8", 170, I'm sure San Francisco might say he's 5'9". He's not 5'9". And he does lack some physicality in regards to being a prototypical receiver. Like, there's just sizes that put you behind the eight ball, right? If you're in the NBA and you're below 6'3", good luck, right? And you can even argue below 6'4", good luck. Most teams, unlike the Golden State Warriors, they can't play small ball for too long, because then teams get bigger bodied centers and bigger power forwards, and they just start playing better, and they can body you up, and they can just use their strength against you. Cowing is also like that, where his release off the line of scrimmage, because he doesn't have that size, isn't the best, and I can almost guarantee you against some of the league's best cornerbacks, nickelbacks that are feisty, that maybe if they are smaller veterans, they're savvy, they know how to use their hands and use their body, they will knock Cowing off of his routes due to lack of size. Now, that said, like Brock Purdy had said, Jacob Cowing possesses straight line speed to take the top off of a defense. So when you talk about, an offense like San Francisco, that you're always looking to add the next element to Shanahan's, his tool belt, right? You have McCaffrey and Purdy and Ayuk. You have all these weapons. You have all these gadgets. Whereas Shanahan's like Batman. He can go to anything. He can go to the grappling hook. He can do the batarang. Jacob Cowing is now, or hopes to be, another tool in that tool belt of Kyle Shanahan's, where he does have that straight line speed, where Deebo Samuel, while is better with the ball in his hands than running free or on routes. Brandon Ayuk, who's a really good route runner, and at times can take the top off of defenses. He doesn't have 4.38 speed. Even Ricky Pearsall, who's also really fast and can take the top off, Cowing can do it more consistently. Now, with that, I don't think you're going to ask Cowing the majority of the time to just go out there and beat a guy straight on. I don't think that's... While Cowing's a good route runner, I'm not saying he's not. He is. And I think, he will be a very useful receiver in an offense like Kyle Shanahan's over the middle. But Jacob Cowing is a player that during the pre-draft process of any team, one fit, he had to go to a Shanahan scheme, a Shanahan style of offense. So your Miamis, your San Franciscos, your Los Angeleses, your Vikings, which, to be fair, is already a lot of teams, and there's plenty more after that. But there was one team in particular that just screamed, Jacob Cowing needs to go here, and that was the Miami Dolphins. Now, the reason why I say that is because Mike McDaniel, like Kyle Shanahan, knows how to utilize and get receivers open and free releases consistently before the ball's even snapped. Now, look at Tyreek Hill. I'm not comparing Cowing to Hill. We're not comparing a future Hall of Famer, likely all-pro receiver in Tyreek Hill to a guy who hasn't even played a snap in the NFL just yet. I do think there is some similarities in how McDaniel frees up Tyreek Hill for releases and how Shanahan should and could free up Jacob Cowing on routes and releases. He works extremely well in motion, and if Shanahan, being one of the best designed free release offensive coordinators / head coaches in the entire NFL, having a player like Cowing with 4.38 speed, That is a tandem made in heaven for the play caller and the receiver. Now, continuing on this, Cowing to me, just my vision of a Shanahan offense that has Deebo Samuel and Jacob Cowing in the same backfield, two gadget players that can, again, do end arounds and screen and reverses and get free releases and, just do everything that you want behind the line of scrimmage. Now, Cowing isn't as big as Deebo. He's not going to be a wide back, but he has the speed to get those releases, to run away from players, whereas Deebo usually has to run through them. And so I think having both players like that in the backfield, Deebo Samuel and Cowing, again, you're adding more tools to that tool belt of Kyle Shanahan's. And I think, whether it's this year or next year or in the future, which time will tell what happens to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, if by chance we do see Jacob Cowing and Deebo Samuel sharing a backfield for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 plays this year, that is going to be, that's where you say, babe, you have to watch this. And you tell all your friends, you got to get in here and see what Shanahan's going to dial up. And Cowing may never touch the ball, but I do think that just having that speed on the field makes the defensive backs, the linebackers, the defensive coordinators take notice of, hey, I know we got to stop McCaffrey. I know we got to stop Ayuk and Kittle and Deebo's in the backfield too, but don't forget about 4.38 speed Jacob Cowing, who again, if Shanahan designs him free releases, in a couple years when he's got his feet under him and he's comfortable in the offense, really could be a nightmare for opposing defenses. Now, I'm not one to say that he is here to replace an Ayuk or here to replace a Deebo Samuel. I don't think that's the case. Now, do I think Jacob Cowing can do a lot of things Deebo Samuel does? Sure. He just does them very differently. And despite the size deficiency, I guess you could say, Jacob Cowing is also extremely tough to bring down despite that small frame, where you might see 5'8", 170, right? And a linebacker, Micah Parsons, for example, who I know calls himself an edge rusher, whatever you want to say, Micah, he'll see Jacob Cowing. He'll say, oh, you're 5'8", 170. I don't know however big Parsons is. I'm 6'3", 250 pounds. Parsons should crush Jacob Cowing, and likely he will, but that is to say, Jacob Cowing is also a tough SOB to bring down, despite only being 5'8". Whereas, if this was a schoolyard or a playground, the bullies would target Jacob Cowing. Well, I'm here to tell you, Jacob Cowing ain't someone that is going to step down from a fight. He will make it extremely hard for opposing defenders to bring him down. He will fight for yak. He'll fight for the extra yards, which...
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Again, hello, Niners offense, where you have the Yak Bros, the Yak Kings, and you haven't even talked about McCaffrey and others in the offense, right? So while I do think the size issues are certainly there for Jacob Cowing, and one of my biggest concerns because of the size, because he's a good route runner, he's pretty good against press coverage and short releases. There's a lot of ways you can utilize him. He's very much proven at the college level. He played 57 straight games over a 5-year college career, where he had 121 targets this past year, 89 receptions, 13 touchdowns, and just 6 drops. That is to say, when you are 5'8", 170 pounds, while his track record would indicate he's had a clean bill of health, you're not playing against NFL players when you go to Arizona, right? Like, you're not playing against the SEC, the Bamas, the Clemsons, Notre Dames. You're not playing against the ACC and Florida State. You're not playing against this own division. You're not playing against Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner and others that are now in Seattle or with the Cardinals or Budda Baker, right? You're not playing against these massive humans, or even the safeties in Budda Baker's case are larger than college safeties. So, I do worry about his health, but that's not been a concern in the past. Obviously, he's hurt now. I hope he's healthy. We have no idea how severe that is. Could have been a hamstring pull, and they said, don't risk it. That's fine. But once the helmets and pads come on, when you are 5'8", 170 pounds, you usually don't last very long unless you're not getting caught up to and not getting touched like a Tyreek Hill, which Cowing isn't Tyreek Hill, but when you have 4.38 speed, the hope is they're not really grabbing you much. And when they do, you're so shifty and quick that you can get away from them and hopefully get some extra yardage. So I don't know if I don't want to say it's the biggest knock on Cowing's game, because his game through 5 years at Arizona, he didn't get hurt. But in the NFL, when the players are bigger, I would like to see Cowing put on about 10 pounds of bulk, make himself a little more dense, and hopefully be able to last 18 plus games in the NFL schedule. Moving on to what he did in college, right? Again, 121 targets, 89 receptions, 13 touchdowns, 6 drops. He was Arizona's number one guy. He was clutch as can be. He was, who you want to target here, coach? It's 3rd and 6, game on the line. It's Jacob Cowing. Now, Steve Smith, former Raven and Carolina Panther, or Steve Smith Sr., might I say, he called Cowing, a great route runner. And it's true. I think the 2 receivers that San Francisco drafted this year are pure route running receivers. Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing. Now, my concerns about Pearsall, well, there aren't very many. The bigger concerns about him are actually getting playing time. Because you have Ayuk and you have Debo and you have Juwan Jennings. Whereas Cowing, whether it be year one or forever in his entire career, I do think it's going to be a lot harder for him to kind of etch out a role in an offense that is stacked at receiver currently and has 4 guys ahead of them. Now, injuries happen, but I could see Cowing, by no fault of his own, be a little buried in the depth chart. And with that probably being the case behind Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Pearsall, you can add in your Ronnie Bells, your Chris Conleys, and others in that room, that I think Cowing could find himself kind of being the 6th, receiver, in that room. So what would his role be in year one? And I don't mean to keep using this as, the go-to, well, this guy could do this because of the rule chain, but it's true. Where I think more than Pearsall, I think more than Garendo, I think Jacob Cowing, I don't want to say of all the picks, because I'll phrase it this way. Of all the receivers on the roster, of all the running backs on the roster, take it even further, of any player on the roster, I think Jacob Cowing is more suited for the kick return, punt return role. He has the speed. He's tough to bring down. He gets the ball, at the 20-yard line, and you watch him run. With the new rule of kickoffs, the guys are going to have space. They'll have time to build up their speed. And by that time, Cowing is so fast, he could be 15, 20 yards down the field. And instead of being at the 20, you can be at the 30. So I do think there is a role for him. Now, I also believe that with Jacob Cowing, and this is no surprise, he does put 2 players on notice. The first one is clear as day, it's Danny Gray. Whereas I was very surprised in the first day of OTAs, which I'm sure, just like every other rookie, Danny Gray is trying to find a role on the team. He's had 2 years to do so. He got hurt last year. Didn't show much his rookie year in 2021. And so Danny Gray, you're on notice. More so than the Pearsall pick, but doubling down because of the Cowing pick, Ricky Pearsall, you're on notice. And Ronnie Bell, who was taking punt returns last year in meaningful games for San Francisco against Seattle on Thanksgiving and against the Cardinals later on in the season, you're on notice as well. A 6th-round pick means nothing when you're a 4th-round pick. You know, Danny Gray, former 3rd-round pick, failed 3rd-round pick so far, and I can argue that while Jacob Cowing is smaller than Danny Gray, he is essentially the Danny Gray replacement. The way they play is very similar. Cowing's a little tougher to bring down, although again being smaller, but kick return, he's speedy over the middle, free releases. Like Danny Gray, by all means, is either going to get cut outright, try to get traded. Like I would not be surprised if, you know, when all was said and done and roster cuts come about, you see players like Ronnie Bell on the practice squad and Danny Gray's cut because Jacob Cowing can do exactly what Danny Gray does and is younger. He's a rookie and is honestly more proven in college. So, you know, Jacob Cowing doesn't have many weaknesses in regards to what his tape has shown. He doesn't have many weaknesses in regards to, you know, what he did in college. A lot of his concerns from me are simply going to be, can you play at the NFL level at the size of 5'8", 170? I do think get a little more dense, get a little stronger, and even if you have to redshirt in the doghouse for a year, I do think that will probably be best for Cowing because I don't know if his body's right. Now, I'm not counting him out. I'm not discrediting him. I think Jacob Cowing can be a really good player. And there are some people, although I wouldn't go this far, some people would even say he's going to be better than Ricky Pearsall. Now, knowing San Francisco's draft history, it's never the highest receiver or running back they take. It's always the second guy they take. So maybe that's the case. But I do think there is a future where it's Ayuk, it's Pearsall, and it's Cowing, and hopefully Juwan Jennings in 4 years' time on this team and holding it down in the receiver room. I do believe Cowing's skill set translates to the NFL. I'm just not sure his body does. And that's honestly my only concern. He has relatively good hands. Now, he's not going to go up and get it. He's 5'8". But he's tough to bring down. You design plays for him. You get him free releases. And you almost utilize him kind of like a mini Deebo Samuel. Now, not a wide back, but you get him out in space, get in the ball on screens, end arounds, design free releases for him. Like Brock Purdy said, I cannot wait to see what he can do and take the top off of defenses. That's really the one thing this offense needs that it really truly doesn't have. And I think Pearsall and more so Cowing fill that role where this offense this year, if Cowing can find his footing or in a couple of years' time, which let's be honest here, a player like Cowing will probably need 2 or 3 years to really kind of find himself in the NFL. And when he does that, if he does that, you're going to see a lot of deep shots downfield, a lot of the Deebo Samuel stuff, but just quicker and faster and shorter. But I don't really have much negativity to say about Jacob Cowing. I like the pick. Sure, were there a couple positions that I would have wanted higher or better? Yes. But it's a receiver that fills a need, protects you, and if he's a first-year kick return punt returner, that's a win. That is a win out of a 4th-round pick in year 1 that is on a roster where he really shouldn't be expected to produce much. And I think Cowing can be that player in year 1. go be a kick returner. Go replace Ray McLeod, who didn't make many guys miss, didn't have the speed you want to separate. Like, I think whether Cowing is replacing Danny Gray or is just an outright Ray McLeod replacement, whatever you want to call him, Ray McLeod replacement. I can't talk today, I'm sorry. But I do believe that Cowing can find a role in year one, but I think it'll take him 2 or 3 years to find himself as a true receiver in the NFL. That's Jacob Cowing. We only have 2 more players to dive into in this year's Niners 2024 draft class. Jarrett Kingston and Tatum Bethune. I promise those videos are coming soon. Hopefully, the studio's coming together much more in the next few videos, and hopefully, before the season begins, we'll have lights and we'll have theatrics, we'll have everything going for you in the brand new studio. Thank you so much for watching. Want to remind you to follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. You can use our promo code 49ersaccess. It's 49ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase, whether it's baseball games, NBA playoff games, or the schedule's out. If you want to buy NFL tickets, use that promo code and save yourself $20 off. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave that review on the audio platforms. And until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.